The city skyline glittered, a tapestry of ambition and excess. For billionaire Arthur Sterling, it was his kingdom, and in this kingdom, everyone had their place. Tonight, his place was the back of his own Rolls-Royce, and his driver, Samuel, was just another fixture in his opulent world. Arthur was already in a foul mood. A billion-dollar deal had slipped through his fingers, and he needed someone to blame. Samuel, with his calm demeanor and steady hands on the wheel, became the unfortunate target. T pulled up to La Cille, the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant, a place where reservations were a myth and entry was a privilege. As the doorman rushed to open Arthur's door, the billionaire didn't move. Instead, he barked, "Samuel, get my briefcase." Samuel, ever professional, quickly retrieved the leather case from the passenger seat and handed it to Arthur. But Arthur didn't take it. He let it drop to the plush sidewalk with a dull thud. Gasps rippled through the line of waiting "Pick it up," Arthur sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can't even handle a simple task. What do I even pay you for?" Samuel's jaw tightened, but his expression remained unreadable. Evando, his movements deliberate and graceful, and picked up the briefcase. He dusted it off with a handkerchief before presenting it again. This time, Arthur snatched it. "Next time, try not to be so clumsy," he spat, turning his back on Samuel and striding into the restaurant, leaving his driver standing amidst a sea of judging eyes. Samuel stood there for a moment, the city lights reflecting in his deep, thoughtful gaze. He adjusted his tie, got back into the driver's seat, and drove off into the night, the picture of composure. But beneath that calm exterior, a storm was brewing. Inside, Arthur was holding court. He regaled his associates with tales of his business prowess, the story of his driver's incompetence serving as a comedic appetizer. Laughter echoed around the table. "You have to keep them in their place," he declared, raising a glass of vintage champagne. "Show them who's boss." His friends nodded in agreement, their faces glowing in the candlelight. Arthur felt a surge of power. He had reasserted his dominance. The world was back in its rightful order. The evening wore on, a blur of expensive food and sycophantic praise. Around midnight, Arthur, flushed with wine and victory, stumbled out of the restaurant. He expected Samuel to be waiting, car gleaming under the streetlights. But the cab was empty. A flicker of annoyance crossed Arthur's face. He pulled out his phone to call, but his fingers fumbled. He tried again. No answer. "Insolent," he muttered, the alcohol making him unsteady. He decided to take a cab, a thought that was almost beneath him. As he waited, a sleek, black limousine, even more impressive than his own, purred to a stop in front of him. The tinted window slid down, and Arthur's jaw dropped. Sitting in the plush leather interior was Samuel, but this was not the Samuel he knew. Gone was the simple driver's uniform. In its place was a bespoke Italian suit that probably cost more than Arthur's entire wardrobe. A diamond-encrusted watch peeked from under his cuff, and next to him sat a woman of breathtaking elegance. "Having trouble, Mr. Sterling?" Samuel's voice was different. It was smooth, confident, and held a note of amusement that made Arthur's skin crawl. It wasn't the voice of an employee. It was the voice of an equal. Or perhaps a superior Samuel. "What is this? Where's my car? Who are these people?" Arthur stammered, his drunken haze evaporating in a flash of confusion and shock. Samuel smiled, a slow, deliberate smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "My name is not just Samuel," he said, his voice as cool as the night air. "It's Samuel Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries." The name hit Arthur like a physical blow. Thorne Industries, the very company that had just outmaneuvered him, snatching the billion-dollar tech merger he had been chasing for months, the company he had dismissed as a lucky upstart. He stared at Samuel, his mind reeling. The driver he had humiliated, the man he had treated as less than human, was his biggest rival. But why? Arthur's voice was a hoarse whisper. "Why would you be my driver?" Samuel leaned forward slightly. "Market research, Mr. Sterling. The best way to understand a competitor is to get close to them, to see how they operate, how they think, how they treat people. And you, my friend, have been an open book." He gestured around him. "I've been driving you for 6 months. I've heard every phone call, Every confidential meeting, every boastful monologue. You handed me your entire business strategy on a silver platter. The color drained from Arthur's face. He remembered all the times he'd taken calls on speaker, bragging about his tactics, revealing his next moves, all while Samuel sat silently in the front seat. He had seen Samuel as part of the furniture, invisible, and that invisibility had been Samuel's greatest weapon. "The way you treated me tonight," Samuel continued, his voice losing its playful edge and taking on a steely hardness. That was just the final piece of the puzzle. It confirmed everything I needed to know. A man who derives pleasure from humiliating those he perceives as beneath him lacks the character and foresight to lead a true empire. You build your throne on the backs of others, Arthur. I build mine on respect and vision. The beautiful woman beside Samuel, his wife and business partner, finally spoke. "You see, Arthur, we don't just acquire companies. We invest in people. And you're a very poor investment." Arthur stood frozen on the sidewalk, the laughter from the restaurant a distant, mocking echo. The doorman and the waiting crowd were now staring at him, their expressions a mixture of shock and glee. The master of the universe had been reduced to a fool in a matter of minutes. Samuel's limousine began to pull away. "Oh!" "And Arthur," he called out, his voice carrying clearly in the quiet street. "You're fired. But don't worry about getting home. I've called you a taxi. It should be here shortly." The window slid up, concealing Samuel Thorne from view. The limo disappeared into the stream of city traffic, leaving Arthur Sterling alone on the curb, stripped of his power, his pride, and his illusions. The taxi that arrived moments later felt less like a ride home and more like a chariot carrying him to his own downfall. As he sank into the back seat, the once brilliant city lights seemed to mock him, each one a tiny reminder of the man who had outsmarted him, not in the boardroom, but from the driver's seat. He had learned a hard lesson that night. Never underestimate the person holding the keys. They might just be driving you to your own ruin. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more stories like this.